Hey everybody, this is Max again with Jack Pine, coming in today with another WMS tip. Today, I wanted to talk about a really important way that you use your labor management system, how to spot an unproductive employee. We get asked a lot, what do you do with the information coming out of your labor system? Well, one key element is to find where you are and, unfortunately, where you are not productive in your operational environment. Some people are falling behind the engineered standards that dictate what a normal efficiency an employee should be working at. And your labor system helps give you the information to drive the conversation and additional training needed to get everybody back to where they need to be. Let me show you the Infios Labor Advantage system with the labor metrics reports to show the information on each of our employees and how they're performing. So let's dig in a little more and take a look. If I come into our employee summary report, we can see in this helpful graph up at the top who is falling above or below our 100% efficiency expectation from the engineered standards for each of the processes that we're measuring. For example, right here, I can see one user coming in just below that 100%. It's important to be able to see what that user is doing, where they're going in our facility, so we can better understand how we're coming to that number. I can drill in further to see what processes this employee is undergoing as part of their workday. And I can see that they're spending a lot of time in voice picking and specifically a lot of time in the O4 picking zone. We can drill in further to see what processes our resources are using and where they're spending their time during their workday. For example, here, I can see this employee is mostly working in a voice pick process across several different zones. I can see that in many of the zones, they're actually operating well above our efficiency expectation. But for some reason, in the O4 zone, where they spend most of their time, they're actually falling below our expectation. I can even go a step further and see what days they're performing well or performing poorly. I can see for this employee, some days they are above the 100% expectation in this zone, but there are others that they're falling a little bit below. I can see here on the 17th, they're at about an 86% efficiency, which is not a cause for concern, but it's definitely something that we want to understand why and might drive a further conversation. Here on the 17th, we can see that they drop down to about an 86% efficiency, which is maybe not a cause for concern, but it's something we need to dig into further so we understand what happened, what caused them to fall behind expectation, and what we need to do to get back up to our efficiency goals. Now I'm going to drill into my labor command center to see the details on what this employee was doing. The labor command center shows me detailed information about what my employees are doing throughout the day. For example, here, I can see that they started with a sign on and it went immediately into voice picking in that O4 zone that saw that they were struggling in. We can see a variance between the SAM or the standard time as an expectation for how long it should have taken to complete that task versus the actual minutes that it took them to complete. A little bit of a variance isn't always a problem. Sometimes you come in a little above or a little below and you average out to 100% throughout the day. But what we can see here is that there's a large gap coming immediately out after a break. This is really important as we determine where we're losing efficiency through our workplace. Maybe this person took a longer break than intended. Maybe they forgot to sign back in after returning from a break. But it really helps us drive where our efficiency is dropping and what could be the cause for that. For example, I have another drop down here, just in the middle of picking. We took almost 20 minutes longer than expected to complete this task. This helps figure out where our training opportunities are. Maybe this zone, it needs to be clarified to our users, and that's why it's taking longer to navigate travel. Or perhaps there's too many people in this zone and they have to wait for lanes to be cleared before they can travel. Or perhaps it is just that this user is finding a little extra time at the zones in the back of the building to have more chats than they probably should. As you can see, using the labor metrics and labor advantage information to find those unproductive employees is incredibly important to finding where you can get growth in your labor force. When you see things like low efficiency in certain areas but not others, it just doesn't really add up. Data is necessary to make change. Grasping at straws, looking at units per hour by department, it's not enough to understand where you're coming out ahead and where you're falling behind. I hope this was helpful looking at a real example of an actual employee performing their workday. If you'd like to learn more about how you can leverage your labor management and warehouse management systems and improve your operations, give me a call. Always happy to talk about more.